This is one of the thousands of unregulated, unmonitored mines in the DRC. Although one of the poorest countries on Earth, DRC is rich in minerals.
Several parts of our world are truly fascinating. Just as the entire world is pretty vast, so are the realities of things we don't know about. In this video, we'll be looking at one particular part of the world that has been truly fascinating: the Congo. Join us as we examine some of the most shocking, terrifying discoveries made here that have continued to amaze everyone. The deadliest mpox variant. In June of this year, health officials discovered that they had discovered a new strain of the deadly mpox virus spreading across the eastern border of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The virus, which, as we all know, can cause several lesions across the human body, was confirmed to have infected hundreds of people, with the number of cases rising by the day. If there's anything you should know about viral outbreaks like these, it's that they're terrible. I mean, just a few years ago, the entire world was grounded to a halt when the coronavirus pandemic happened. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you can remember what a terrible experience that was, even for people who didn't actually get the virus. Well, what's been discovered in DR Congo is just as bad, if not even worse. According to health experts covering the situation, this strain is the most dangerous mpox variant discovered to date. It was thought to only be transmitted through sexual contact, but there is now new evidence to show that simple forms of skin-to-skin contact, like hugs or handshakes, could also act as conduits. To make things worse, this variant could also be very transferable. You see, global health experts have been monitoring the spread of mpox since 2022, and they managed to control its spread by vaccinating many vulnerable groups. The issue with DR Congo, however, is that there is still very poor access to these vaccines and treatments. Because of this, experts are now warning that it could spread to other neighboring countries soon enough.
We don't have the required knowledge about mpox, natural history, transmission dynamics, risk factors of mpox. You need to understand your context. You need to understand your disease for you to develop or design preventive strategies against such a disease. And that's a significant limitation, and that tells us that we need to invest in uncovering, understanding our disease better.
That expert is absolutely right. At the moment, it is important for more countries, especially developing economies, to invest aggressively in their public health sectors. Already, the mpox variant in DR Congo is said to have affected almost 10,000 people, with almost 500 deaths. Hopefully, it can be brought under control before it spirals into something much worse. The world's largest snake. In the land of snakes, some have managed to stand out for their sheer size. But what if I told you that the largest of them all could be in the Congo? So a few years back, the popular podcaster Joe Rogan had noted explorer Forrest Galante on his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. And there, Forrest told the story of a military man who claimed to have found the largest snake ever in the Congo.
Now,
Interesting.
during World War II, there was a colonel who flew over there, and this was a well-respected colonel. I'm sure, Jamie, you'll be able to find this very quickly. Him and his two passengers in the plane both reported a 100-foot-long snake. They flew over it once, went, "What is that?" and flew over it 2 more times to verify it, and got so low to the ground that they said the snake struck at the airplane. The pilot, this well-respected colonel, and the 2 passengers had the exact same story of this giant snake in Central Africa. And yet no big snake has ever been proven from there.
Now, the story that Forrest is referring to here is the story of Colonel Remy van Lierde. A high-ranking member of the Belgian Air Force, Colonel van Lierde had flown over 400 missions by 1959. But that year, he and a few of his subordinates were flying over the Katanga region of the Congo when they found a reptile well over 100 feet long. This measurement would easily have made it the largest snake alive on Earth, dwarfing today's titans of the slithering world, like the green anaconda and the reticulated python. Most green anacondas average around 15 feet long, although a few reticulated pythons can grow up to 20 feet. Still, something 100 feet is completely unheard of. So far, there isn't much evidence to show for this, especially since no one has ever seen a snake as large as that. Still, as Forrest said, everyone on Colonel Van Leerde's flight gave the same story to the last detail. What are the odds that they were all fibbing? Mountain of Gold. Africa is a continent that is incredibly rich in natural resources. And for Congo, one resource available in vast amounts is gold. In fact, the Democratic Republic of Congo currently ranks in the 17th position on the ranking of the world's largest gold producers and exporters. To really understand how rich DR Congo is in gold, consider this video, which was taken back in 2023. According to sources, this was a clip of hundreds of Congolese locals storming a mountain after discovering that it had a massive wealth of gold deposits. The mountain was said to have been discovered by a local miner, who immediately ran into a local village to spread the news. Quickly enough, everyone grabbed shovels, pans, and even used their bare hands as they dug the mountain's side for the precious metal. This clip here shows the extent of Congo's ironic status. Despite being one of the world's most resource-endowed nations, it remains one of the poorest as well. The benefits of this resource endowment usually elude the populace, and that is just unfortunate, to say the least. The Cave of Agonizing Death. Explorers are among the most fascinating people in the world. Their quest for adventure and discovery is truly admirable, and their bravery, even in the face of mortal danger, is more impressive. One explorer who really pushed the boundaries of risk was Attilio Gatti. Born in 1896 in Voghera, Italy, Gatti had an insatiable quest for adventure at a young age. And it didn't take him too long to realize that his calling was to be an explorer. In a few short decades, Gatti established himself as a foremost explorer. However, he didn't really feel like he earned that title until he visited a secret cave known as Cowena. For years, the tales of Cowena had haunted Gatti, and in 1928, he decided that he'd go there. Translated in the local Mumbwa tongue as Cave of Agonizing Death, Cowena had haunted Gatti for years. And even though he had explored much of the African continent, this discovery would change his life forever. To even get into this cave, Gatti had to navigate through several logistical challenges. Nevertheless, he managed to reach it. And to hear Gatti describe it, this discovery was nothing short of nightmare fuel. You see, for decades, Cowena had been used as a death pit. It was incredibly deep, and due to this depth, witch doctors and local sorcerers in the area had banished anyone who displeased them to it. At the time, entering Cowena meant accepting death. And when Gatti plunged into the depths of the cave, he saw why. According to the explorer's notes, he found human skulls and skeletons, with birds, spiders, and snakes creeping and crawling among the remains. The animals in the cave flew blindly in the men's faces, crept up their legs, and crawled wetly over their feet. And after just a short while, Gatti and his crew climbed out of there using the ropes that had helped them descend in the first place. It is said that Gatti and his crew were so scared by what they found in Cowena that they never ventured back there. And to be honest, who would blame them? Electrically charged stones. Back in 2023, footage began to come out from the Manano region of Congo, showing what appears to be mysterious stones with electricity embedded in them. The footage appears to show two rock pieces that spark once they come in contact, kind of like a soldering iron and another piece of metal. As soon as clips like these hit the internet, they caused a massive firestorm, with some people even comparing them to vibranium, the electrically charged metal from the fictional country of Wakanda in Marvel's Black Panther comic books and movies. If these clips are true, They could completely change how we see and even generate electricity to power our lives. That said, there are those who have claimed that these clips are fakes. Most detractors claim that the clips are mostly doctored, and considering that there is no official report considering stones being able to conduct or emit university, who knows what could have been going on there? The African origins of Stonehenge. If you're even remotely interested in topics such as archaeology and etymology, then there's no doubt you'd be familiar with Stonehenge. Located in Salisbury Plains in Wiltshire, England, this megalithic structure is one of the most famous landmarks in the entire world. Stonehenge generally consists of an outer ring of vertical sarsen standing stones, each about 13 feet tall, 7 feet wide, and weighing about 25 tons. Then there are horizontal lintel stones and a ring of smaller blue stones inside the outer ring. Experts believe that Stonehenge was constructed in several phases, starting from about 3100 BC and continuing until about 1600 BC. However, there have also been some fascinating rumors that suggest that these stones could have originated from the Congo. A group of researchers has been working on samples from Stonehenge for a few years now, and they are operating under the hypothesis that the stones might indeed have originated from this African nation. They came to this conclusion after studying soil and stone samples from the historic site, and they believe there is a significant resemblance between the stones at the site and some stone and rock samples found in the Congo. Of course, there are also a lot of questions here. For one, how did these stones manage to get to the United Kingdom from Congo? Also, if the stones of the outer ring are the only ones that originated from this African nation, what about those that form the inner ring? Could they be formed somewhere else that we don't even know about? Who knows? For now, research into the origins of these stones is still ongoing, and until then, we can only watch and anticipate the insights we get. The Congo giant spiders. No one exactly likes spiders, but when you see certain ones, you're basically forced into amazement. As it turns out, Congo is home to a specific type of spider that is nothing short of a marvel of nature. Known as the Jiba fofi, the Congolese giant spider is a type of spider that is particularly renowned for its immense size. Not many people have seen the Congolese giant spider, and this is by design. The spiders are usually found very deep in the heart of Congo's jungles and have some of the best natural camouflage in the world. Just take this footage, for instance. Many notes talking about these spiders describe them as being able to dig shallow tunnels under tree roots and camouflage with a screen of leaves. This allows them to easily hunt their prey while also hiding perfectly from predators. The first sighting of the Congolese giant spider was made back in the mid-1800s. And since then, more and more people have been looking to lay their eyes on them. Not much is known about the spiders, including whether they are poisonous. Still, it's pretty safe to say that I would not be looking to touch one of these guys if I were ever to see it. Horrible cobalt mining operations. Batteries power all of our devices. And to work well, they need a chemical known as cobalt, which offers stability and energy density. As you can imagine, cobalt is incredibly important for phone manufacturers. And as it turns out, DR Congo is currently the world's largest cobalt exporter, with about 72% of the world's cobalt demand being fulfilled by the country, particularly Kolwezi, a region in DG Congo's southern area. You can just imagine how much it earns from exporting the material. Still, to see the way cobalt miners are being treated is nothing short of an eyesore. In DR Congo, thousands of men are forced to work in the country's cobalt mines, digging the mineral out of the earth and listing it onto trucks where they are transported around the world. According to reports, some of these miners can make the equivalent of $200 a week. Still, even though this is pretty lucrative in a country where a majority of citizens live on less than $2 a day, the risks involved in the job are just too immense. From landslides to tunnel collapses and more, the dangers involved in cobalt mining are just too great. And while there isn't much research on the matter, experts estimate that about 2,000 miners die each year from this job alone. To make things worse, there are miners who literally survive near-death experiences with broken bones and limbs only to go back to this same dangerous job. At the end of the day, many of these people don't have any other alternatives. Hey, gotta pay the bills, right? The hope is that the dangerous conditions these people are subjected to can be improved someday. Until then, it's a hard miner's life for thousands of Congolese citizens. The Mahamba. When it comes to the history of the animal kingdom, one animal that has been hotly debated is the dinosaur. Even today, some believe there were no dinosaurs ever on the Earth. However, the evidence of their existence is quite overwhelming. Adding to this evidence is the discovery of the Mahamba, an ancient crocodile-like animal that easily blows the crocs of today out of the water. Said to have originated from the Congo, the Mahamba looks just like a regular crocodile. However, it is larger and much more menacing. Some who claim to have seen the animal claim that it is much larger than 50 feet in length. Throw that against today's crocs, which average about 14 feet, and you can see just how much of a difference we're talking about here. Like a crocodile, the Mahamba lays eggs and eats flesh, including humans. It is also said to dig long tunnels, 50 to 1,000 meters long, in the earth, leading to caverns in which it sleeps. Some experts believe that the reptile might be a freshwater relative of the long-extinct dinosaurs, but considering that its sightings have been incredibly rare, the amount of knowledge we have about this animal could easily fit into one page of a book. That said, some urban legends claim that the Mahamba is still very much alive to this day. As they believe, it lurks quietly in rivers, waiting for its prey. Boy, I'd hate to imagine the fate of such an unlucky animal that gets caught in this guy's lair. Strange jungle noises. If there's one thing we know about our jungles, it's that they can be quite strange. And the jungles of the Congo are just as strange as any around. For one, there have been reports of strange sounds being heard in the Congolese jungle. These sounds vary from shrieks and noises to screams, and sometimes even wails. And when you hear the locals describe them, the sounds are scary enough to prevent even the most hardened person from having a good night's rest. Sadly, the dense nature of Congo's forests has made it almost impossible for anyone to investigate these screams and find out their origin. Still, I'd pay good money to find out what must be going on in those bushes. Mount Nyiragongo's eruption. Back in 2021, Congolese citizens were left absolutely shocked when Mount Nyiragongo, an active stratovolcano with an elevation of over 3,000 meters, erupted in the Virunga National Park. The eruption was said to have been the first for the mountain in 3 decades, and according to reports, it happened completely without warning.
Streams of lava from its crater, and these currents had flowed to the city's outskirts, near the border with neighboring Rwanda. Hundreds of homes were buried or burnt.
The eruption of this volcano was so intense that larvae even seeped all the way to DR Congo's border with Rwanda. All in all, hundreds of homes were left completely destroyed, as citizens could do nothing but pick up the pieces of their properties after the magma cooled and solidified. The government ordered thousands of citizens in the area to flee and seek refuge elsewhere, and to this day, remediation efforts are still being made. The Emela Ntuka. Speaking of weird animals that live in Congo's rainforests, say hello to the Emela Ntuka, a neo-dinosaurian cryptid reported from the rainforest swamps and rivers of the Republic of the Congo and the Southwest Central African Republic. Said to be a distant cousin to the rhino, the Emela Ntuka shares a very striking physical resemblance to the mammal. It also has horns, as well as very tough skin that serves it in periods of conflict. That said, the Emela Ntuka takes the aggression of the rhinoceros and completely turns it up to an 11. In fact, the Emela Ntuka is said to be so aggressive that it has been named the elephant killer by locals. The first report of the Emelantuka was in a book from 1954. Written by French colonial wildlife inspector Lucien Blancou, the book describes a forest animal as told by indigenes of Congo's Kile district. As the book explains, these indigenes know a forest animal larger than a buffalo. Its tracks were said to have only been seen at long intervals. But even at that, these indigenes were said to have been more scared of it than any other animal in their jungle. Reports claim that the Emelantuka is a very territorial animal. It was said to be very aggressive, having absolutely no qualms with killing any other animal deemed as a threat to its land or freedom. Hey, look, if an animal's going to be this aggressive, I think it's safe to say that you don't want problems with it at all. Telepathy of the Baka people. Like many other parts of the world where forests thrive, the Democratic Republic of Congo is known to have a vast trove of indigenous tribes. One of the largest on record is the Baka tribe. Known in the Congo as the Bayaka, the Baka are an ethnic group inhabiting the southeastern rainforests of Cameroon, the Northern Republic of the Congo, northern Gabon, and the southwestern Central African Republic. They're known for their closeness to Mother Nature, as well as their generally nomadic way of life. Interestingly, while many might consider the Baka people somewhat primitive, some experts believe they might have an advanced means of communicating with each other, something along the lines of telepathy. Now, I know it might sound pretty far-fetched, but some researchers have observed the Baka people and found that they have the ability to communicate with each other over far distances without speaking. In fact, their communication is said to be so seamless that they barely even need facial cues. Nevertheless, they communicate with each other and can understand each other rather well. This skill is said to be especially handy when the Baka are out hunting for food. Animals are known to be especially jumpy when they're in the forest, and any weird noises could easily scare them. So, over the years, the Baka people have seemingly evolved from screaming and yelling while hunting to developing more subtle means of communicating. And so far, it appears to be working pretty well for them. Scientists are still looking to see just how accurate this communication style is, and their insights could give us even more knowledge about primordial human communication. The Kasai Rex. Congolese legends talk of the Kasai Rex, a massive theropod cryptid from the Kasai Valley of the country. Massive and unyielding, the Kasai Rex is said to be a surviving species of theropod dinosaur, similar to the Tyrannosaurus rex or Giganotosaurus. Local tribes such as the Bambuti and the Baka people have shared countless stories about the Kasai Rex. And it is even claimed that reports of sightings occurred sometime around the early 20th century. Bernard Heuvelmans, a Belgian cryptozoologist, picked up on the speculation surrounding this animal and decided to travel to Congo to check it out. There, Heuvelmans collected testimonies and analyzed footprints found near a local river. He was able to suggest the presence of a large, unknown creature that didn't seem to match the profile of any other animal known at the time. It is believed that the Kasai Rex somehow managed to survive the extinction-level event that took out the dinosaurs. And since then, it has taken solace in the thick jungles of the Congo. Scientists have yet to record an official sighting, but if there's one thing we've learned about ancient legends, it's that we shouldn't necessarily dismiss them that easily. The City of Gbadolite. It's not uncommon to find monuments to people who have ruled cities, especially in Africa, where several leaders have larger-than-life personalities. In fact, over the years, several African leaders have taken it upon themselves to immortalize themselves however they see fit. Some of these feats are pretty standard stuff, while others are incredibly grandiose. Well, when it comes to the Congo, there is no better representation of the grandiose nature of a leader than Gbadolite. Located in the Nord Ubangi province of the country, Gbadolite is a city created by Mobutu Sese Seko. You see, Mobutu was a calculating military tactician who rose to power following a coup in 1965. He had actually staged a first coup in 1960, but that one didn't succeed all the way through. So he decided that the second time was the charm, and on this subsequent attempt he succeeded. Anyways, like many eccentric leaders, Mobutu had a very large personality, as well as a cult-like following around him, and soon enough he began to shape the entire country as he saw fit. By 1971, Mobutu had renamed the country Zaire. He instituted strict rules on dressing for his military and government officials, and he went about creating several reforms. However, perhaps his most prominent project was Gbadolite. Built to modernize the Congo, Gbadolite is referred to by many as the Versailles of the jungle. The city contained a hydroelectric dam, an international airport, massive farmlands, supermarkets, hospitals, you name it. Gbadolite even had a high school famous for its academic excellence. To house a leader of his stature, Mobutu built 3 places in Gbadolite. He also built a nuclear bunker that could house over 500 people, in case there was ever an issue with an international foe.
In a remote corner of the DRC is Gbadolite, a strangely haunting place.
So, you might be asking yourself, what the heck happened to this place? Well, you live by the coup, you die by the coup. In 1997, Laurent Kabila, one of Mobutu's major political rivals, led a coup that ousted the head of state. During this rebellion, Gbadolite was raided, and all the palaces were looted. Mobutu and his family fled the country to live in exile, and after he surrendered his government, he pretty much died in exile. As for Gbadolite, well, it remains a ruin to this day. All that infrastructure, all that beauty, left to rot and be overrun by weeds. The Congo-Mato pterosaur. For our next entry, we'll be looking at an animal that could easily be one of the most ferocious birds ever created. Congolese legends speak about a creature known as the Congo-Mato. According to these legends, the animal vastly resembles a pterosaur, a flying reptile from prehistoric times. Its name loosely translates to breaker of boats, and if that doesn't go on to tell you just how ferocious the animal is, then I don't know what will. Reports of sightings of this animal date back to the 20th century, when an explorer named Frank Merland documented encounters with the deadly bird close to Congo's swamps. According to his records, eyewitness descriptions claimed that the Congo-Mato had a wingspan of about 4 to 7 feet. It had leathery wings, as well as a beak that was filled with very sharp teeth. Although no official scientific papers mention this animal, and there hasn't been any sighting in a few years, you can just imagine the implications if this animal ends up being found. The okapi. Okay, so we've had a lot of fun with animals that appear in Congolese legend. Now let's take a look at animals that we actually know exist. With that in mind, say hello to the okapi. Known also as the forest giraffe, the okapi is an artiodactyl mammal known to live in the northwest part of DR Congo. First discovered in the early 20th century, the okapi was one of the last large mammals to be discovered.
You might have guessed from its appearance, the okapi is a member of the giraffe family.
The okapi is especially known for its distinct appearance. The animal has stripes on its body, as well as a relatively lengthy neck, both of which combine to make it look like a mix between a giraffe and a zebra. In general, okapis are known to be diurnal, which means that they are mostly active during the daytime. They live their lives more solitarily, coming together only to breed. With their distinct look, it's understandable that you might get a bit frightened when you see one of these bad boys at night. However, because they are herbivores, they don't really pose a threat to us humans. The Ruki River. Covering about 14 million square kilometers, the Ruki River is a left tributary of the Congo River, which has already made a name for being the deepest river in the world. Its drainage basin is almost entirely pristine lowland forest, and as of 2020, about 248 species of fish had been identified in the river. To make things even more interesting, the Ruki River was recently crowned the darkest river in the world. Researchers from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich made the remark in 2023, confirming that the Ruki River is even darker than the Rio Grande in the Amazon. Whether for transportation or tourism, the Ruki River is undoubtedly one of the most important bodies of water in the Congo. However, what makes it especially mysterious are the tales of undiscovered species still lurking in it. Local legends speak of an elusive dinosaur-like creature that roams the riverbanks and hides in the thick jungle. At the same time, there are tales of ancient crocodiles with massive, hard bodies that are a terror to any boat or vehicle passing through. Considering that scientists are still working hard to discover animal species in the Ruki River, who knows what they could turn up eventually? Stiassny's giraffe catfish. Earlier this year, it was reported that researchers had discovered a new species of fish deep in the waters of the Congo. In a study published a few months ago in the Journal of Fish Biology, researchers claimed they visited several rivers in the Congo between 2021 and 2023 to survey fish. In one such instance, they came upon a rather interesting find deep in an acidic river, a previously uncontacted fish species. Parochaenoglanus stiassny, or Stiassny's giraffe catfish, is a fish species described as pretty short and stubby. The fishes are generally small, reaching about 3.5 inches in length. At the same time, they come with small eyes and large mouths, as well as skin that kind of makes them look like leopard prints. The discovery of Stiassny's giraffe catfish has added yet another twist to Congo's rich and thriving biodiversity. And once again, the fact that researchers remain very focused on this region means that we should expect to see even more interesting discoveries soon enough. Strange monolith. On a random day in February 2021, the people of Kinshasa, DR Congo's capital city, woke up to find a mysterious silver monolith at a roundabout in the local Bandel neighborhood. The monolith, which measured about 12 feet in height and was triangular in shape, was an enigma on all fronts. For one, the locals had absolutely no idea where it came from. At the same time, it wasn't like there were instructions on what to do with the damn thing.
First, it was the Utah Desert, and now the latest metallic monolith to appear is bemusing residents in the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, Kinshasa. The structure appeared in the Bandalungwa commune.
Drawing crowds of curious onlookers, the monolith quickly sparked widespread debate about its origins. Speaking with news sources about the discovery, a local resident explained, "We woke up and saw this metallic triangle. We were surprised because it is a triangle we often see in documentaries about Freemasons or the Illuminati." Other residents believed it must have been a government tool installed to achieve some objective or the other. What that objective was, however, remained unknown. Eventually, the frustrations of the people boiled over. Curious to know what was going on, the locals eventually destroyed the monolith. When they cracked it open, they found it to be empty. Considering that similar monoliths had appeared in the United States, Turkey, and Romania, it really is anyone's guess what this one could be. The echoing caves of Nyiragongo. Housed in the Virunga National Park region of the Congo is a true marvel of Mother Nature, Mount Nyiragongo, an active stratovolcano with an elevation of almost 11,500 feet. Mount Nyiragongo is one of the most stunning volcanic mountains in the world. It is incredibly active, with eruptions sometimes reaching hundreds of feet in the air and flowing off its sides with great velocity. In fact, the lava lake of Mount Nyiragongo has at times been the most voluminous lava lake in recent history. The lake's depth tends to vary, but it has been known to hit a maximum elevation of about 10,660 feet. However, besides the sheer power of this mountain, it has also been shrouded in some mystery. Primarily, explorers who have ventured into some of its volcanic caves have claimed that they heard mysterious sounds that didn't have any known source. The sounds are said to be deep, rumbling chants, kind of like the mountain itself is growling about something or trying to communicate with us mere mortals. Some geologists have tried to come up with explanations for this phenomenon. including the fact that it could just be natural acoustics or exaggerated reactions to the Earth's shifting tectonic plates. However, according to some locals, this is a sign that Mount Nyiragongo could be a gateway to the underworld or something. Hey, I know it might sound crazy, but come on. Until scientists can tell us definitively what these sounds are, can we really dismiss any explanations? The billy apes. Today, there are several species of apes in the world. However, one species that has fascinated scientists the world over is the billy ape. Native to the Billy Forest in Congo's Baswele district, the billy apes were discovered in 2003. At the time, experts described these apes as aggressive and overly large. They were said to nest on the ground like gorillas, although their diets and bodily features made them look more like chimpanzees.
At a reasonable pace into the forest, and I started to follow him. They've been running away for so long.
Soon enough, scientists discovered that these animals were part of a contiguous population that stretched all through this region. With their imposing size and interesting bodily markings, the billy apes have sparked the curiosity of scientists and experts across the world. Some researchers even believe they could be a hybrid of the great apes, or perhaps an entirely new species. With much of the Billy Forest still unexplored, no one exactly knows how many of these apes there are. However, scientists are sure of their aggressive nature, something which always managed to shin through whenever one of these apes is contacted. The Gawalugo Triangle. Located within the Congo Basin's vast rainforest, the Gawalugo Triangle is one of the most impressive feats of biodiversity in the entire world. Spanning 100 square miles, this northern Congo lowland forest ecosystem is one of the most intact fauna habitats on the entire African continent. Researchers have found several endangered or threatened species here, from forest elephants to western lowland gorillas and even common chimpanzees. With its rich ecosystem, the Gawalugo Triangle has become a haven for several rare plant and animal species. It's been dubbed the last place on Earth by National Geographic, while Time magazine dubbed it the Last Eden. So far, both scientists and even the Congolese government have been able to understand more about this settlement and its importance. And rightfully, they have diverted resources towards ensuring it remains protected at all costs. The Luitzi Crater. Back in 2011, a study revealed that experts had discovered a massive circular depression in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Named the Luitzi Crater, this structure was actually first described in a German biological report dated 1919. However, with no additional fieldwork, it was impossible to say what it was. Eventually, the fieldwork needed to confirm the Luitzi Crater was commissioned in 2011. And here, researchers found that the crater measured a staggering 10.5 miles in size. The crater's landscape is characterized by its lush, circular rim, as well as the vegetation that has covered it over the past few centuries. Along with the hundreds of other craters discovered, the Luitzi Crater provides insights into the violent events that led to the formation of our world as we know it. And it also forms a stark reminder that everything we see could literally be wiped out in a flash. Again, just ask the dinosaurs. The Congo Basin peatlands. If you're fascinated by the natural environment, then you must be familiar with the term peat. Basically, peat is plant matter that has partially decomposed. When leaves, trees, and roots die, waterlogging in swamps prevents decomposition, eventually forming a layer of peat. And this peat captures the carbon that accumulates during plant growth, eventually acting as a carbon sink. All of this means that the drying out of peatlands will cause peat decomposition. The stored carbon is released into the atmosphere, eventually affecting our temperatures and the stability of our environment. Back in 2011, an international team of researchers discovered vast peatlands in the Congo Basin. The peatlands covered about 16.7 million hectares, a landmass over 5 times Belgium's size. In some places, the peat was found to be up to 6.5 inches in depth. This made the Congo Basin peatlands the largest peatlands on the planet.
The Congo Basin is in the very heart of Africa. The landscape is quite remarkable. You look down and...
According to researchers, the Congo Basin peatlands hold between 26 and 32 million tons of carbon, about the equivalent of 3 years' worth of global fossil fuel emissions. At the same time, the central Congo Basin region alone is home to about 36% of the world's tropical peatland area, storing almost 30% of the world's tropical peat carbon. With all of this, it's pretty clear that the entire world will need to protect the Congo Basin peatlands at all costs. The degradation of this landmass will only exacerbate the world's environmental challenges, and as we all know, this is one thing that we just can't afford to risk. Organizations, from the United Nations to the Bezos Earth Fund and other environmental conservation agencies, have called for collaboration on this front, and right now, it is evident that swift action is needed. Mokele Mbembe. For centuries, Congolese legends have spoken of Mokele Mbembe, an animal that many have dubbed Congo's Loch Ness Monster. Said to inhabit the deep, dense jungles of the Congo, Mokele Mbembe has intrigued cryptozoologists and adventurers alike. According to local lore, Mokele Mbembe lives in the deep, unexplored swamps and river systems of the Congo Basin and often hides in the caves carved by rivers into the clay shores at sharp bends. These subterranean dwellings have provided the semi-aquatic animal with a sanctuary where it could retreat and elude prying eyes. The dinosaur-sized cryptid is said to be highly territorial and fiercely protective of its habitat. Local fishermen believe that any canoe that even comes close to its domain is pretty much done for, and they strongly advise against venturing too deep without some serious backup. Interestingly, while some believe that Mokele Mbembe doesn't exist, a lot of people have claimed to have seen it.
A plesiosaur-like creature swimming in the waters of the lake.
Well, if it truly exists, I sure hope we find it someday. Inhabitants of the Ituri Forest. Located in the Ituri province of Congo's northeastern region, the Ituri rainforest spans about 63,000 square kilometers in area. The elevation here ranges from about 700 to 1,000 meters, and the forest has a generally warm and humid climate. Interestingly, the Ituri forest is actually home to the Mbuti Pygmies, a tribe of hunter-gatherer peoples that is quite prominent in the country. The Mbutis are characterized by their short height, and they've been the subject of considerable research by foreign experts. That said, several explorers into this forest have reported hearing strange sounds whenever they pass through this forest. So far, the Mbuti people have denounced their involvement in making these sounds, meaning that whatever is behind them must be out there somewhere. Some locals believe that despite the Ituri forest being rich in both animal and plant life, there is something deeply haunting about it. Could the forest be holding ghostly apparitions? Could there be even more mysterious races and tribes of people living here? Who knows? The cursed mines of Katanga. Congo's Katanga region is one of its most important parts. Away from the fact that the region is rich in vegetation, Katanga is also home to some of the deepest and most resource-rich mines in all of Congo. However, it has also been the site of intense conflict among warring factions for years now. From the forced labor of colonial times to the brutal conflicts that have shaped the modern era, Congo's mines have been mired in bloodshed. Since 1996, a series of wars there are estimated to have killed upward of 5 million Congolese people, with over 90% of these deaths due not directly to violence but to war-exacerbated disease and starvation. Now, according to many locals, all of this bloodshed has left a curse on many of Congo's mines. particularly the ones in Katanga. There are stories of miners disappearing without a trace, strange accidents that completely defy logic and explanation, and eerie sightings beneath the mine's shafts. Many locals believe that these are a result of the many restless souls that have perished on these grounds. And for anyone looking to head into these mines, you'd better be prepared for whatever comes your way. Remains of the Luba Empire. Our world as we know it has been through different phases of development, and with each phase, a specific culture emerges that leads others and basically becomes the center of its region. In the Congo, there was a period when the Luba kingdom was most prominent. Rising from the marshy grasslands of the Upemba Depression in what is now the Southern Democratic Republic of Congo, the Luba kingdom was said to have been founded by King Kongolo Mwamba around 1585. His successor and nephew, Kalala Ilunga, expanded the empire even more, stretching it to the upper left bank territories of the Lualaba River.
9. The origins of the Kingdom of Luba rose in Central Africa
to its monarch, but all things must come to an end. And over time, the kingdom was pretty much wiped from the earth as colonialists settled in Africa. That said, anthropologists studying the Luba kingdom have also uncovered a wealth of customs and practices passed down over the generations. These include the use of memory boards to record social codes and historical events. The discovery of these practices has helped offer more insights into the history of the Congo. At the same time, it has provided for some truly fascinating study overall. Lasula monkey. In 2012, a group of scientists published in a journal that they had discovered a new monkey species living in the remote forests of the Congo. The scientists dubbed the species Cercopithecus lomamiensis, although to the locals it was simply called Lasula. As they explained, this would be just the second discovery of a monkey species in 28 years. John Hart, the lead scientist of the project, said to news reporters, "We never expected to find a new species there, but the Lomami Basin is a very large block that has had very little exploration by biologists." Speaking on the discovery, Hart explained that the team was on a routine stop in Congo's Opala region. Suddenly, they came across a strange-looking monkey tethered to a post. It was apparently the pet of one of the locals, but the scientists knew there was something different about it. The Lasula had strikingly large, almost human-like eyes, a pink face, and a golden mane. Apparently, while the locals had been living with these monkeys for a while, this would mark the first time anyone from the outside world would be seeing it. Now, isn't that something?